Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special report of Jerusalem's Gate. We're doing a screenshot. We're not doing a customary video on this broadcast. You know, I do not know when I'm going to post this video. It's been on my heart to tell you this information. And yeah, I guess if you see it on the channel, you'll know that I posted it. But, I've been in years of praying and years of fasting and getting the news out with a Christian perspective to the best of my ability. Now, Jerusalem's Gate is not a big channel. For whatever reason, I do not know the workings of YouTube, but it's very obvious that our videos do not get a lot of coverage on YouTube. I do not know how that works, but it's very obvious that something is hindering us from getting these videos out to the masses, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to go on a rant because that's just not my style to go on a rant, but it's becoming very obvious, Now, the topic, the end of the age. I consider the last 100 years the end of the age. We are at the latter end of that 100 years. It's our commander-in-chief stated that he does not want to get bogged down in endless wars, and I support that. I mean, that's common sense. You do not want to be bogged down in endless wars. But let me tell you a little information. After 9/11, our country knew we had to attack. We had to attack somewhere. So we decided to attack in the Middle East. And you're fixing to watch a video. At one time the information was very highly secretive, but now is made public. And it talks about the plan to overthrow a certain number of countries in the Middle East after 9/11. And if you have not seen this video before, you would be absolutely amazed when you see it. It's coming up right after this. But like any information in countries, it's not kept secret for long. It gets out. And Russia got word of this by whatever means. They got word of, and it's my personal opinion, of course, that the United States was going to do this. Well, Russia knew at that point that it had to do something. And they rebuilt their military on a shoestring budget, and they made very effective defensive and offensive weapons on a fraction of what we spend on our military. And that's just a fact. And Russia knew that they had to counter this. And, if we are going to get out the East, okay, somebody's going to fill that void. There will be a changing of the guard, as they say in the Middle East. And you starting to see Russia got involved with Syria. And Russia has Syria. It has Iran. And if the Houthis win this war, they'll have Yemen, and the list goes on. And if we step back and let Russia control the East, then we put Israel in a very vulnerable position. Now, in the Ezekiel, it talks about Israel in the latter days will be without walls, unwalled villages and stuff. And what that is saying, that they don't actually mean physical walls. And at the time they mean that, but what it means in translation and modern terminology is that it will be without defense, because the stronger and bigger your walls were, the more defense you had back then. And that they are prophesying that in the latter days Israel will be without walls, stating that it will be without defense. Is it that passage, Ezekiel 38, talking about what's happening right now? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? It makes you wonder a lot. Let's look at it. Ezekiel 38, it talks about the Gog and Magog war when these nations come against Israel in the latter days. Uh, Go to Ezekiel 38:11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, and I will go to them that are rest and dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. In other words, they'll be without defense. Now, Ezekiel 38:12, it says to take a spoil. Now, and what means is God is going to draw all these nations against Israel because it will be God's doing, the Bible tells us. Whereas God can intervene and destroy those countries and let Israel truly know that their Messiah is Jesus and their God, Yahweh, is their defense. And to take a spoil. Now, the bait on the hook to take a spoil, I personally believe, is oil. And whoever controls the flow of oil in and out of the Strait of Hormuz and controls the oil production of the Middle East controls the world economy. We may, as a nation, have weaned ourselves off of Middle Eastern oil, but the world hasn't. The world hasn't. And that to take a spoil. And that spoil, I believe, is oil. In Ezekiel 38, as we all know, I've gone through it in depth on Jerusalem's gate, and it talks about the nations that God is going to draw against Israel at the latter days. And the spoil, they're doing it to take a spoil, and that spoil, I truly believe, is oil. I truly believe it's oil. You're fixing to watch a video of General Wesley Clark about what started Russia preparing to get more involved in the East. I ask you to please watch it. It's very, very, if you haven't watched it before, I ask you to watch it. And if you watched it before, watch it again and think about Ezekiel 38, which I've gone over so many times in depth on Jerusalem's gate. And that spoil, to take a spoil, is, I personally believe, is oil. They're coming to take a spoil, and that spoil is oil. Here comes a video. Hey, if you want to help us out, as I was saying, Jerusalem Gate makes not a penny off of our channel. We don't do any advertising. We don't accept donations. We don't do any of that. What we do ask you as a favor to help out our videos get more coverage, evidently that's how it works, is to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's how you can help out Jerusalem's Gate if you truly want to help us out. With that being said, we love you. Here comes that very important video.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa. Nobody is threatening to intervene in Africa. The problem is the opposite. We keep asking for people to intervene and stop it. And there's no question that the presence of petroleum throughout the region has sparked great power involvement. Whether that was the specific motivation for the coup or not, I can't tell you, but there's always been this attitude that somehow we could intervene and use force in the region.